Hello, everyone, and welcome to Stella Vision, Stella Rising's weekly marketing update. I'm Marjorie Powers, SVP of CPG, and thank you so much for joining us this morning. Today, I'm happy to welcome Leslie Kennedy, our CPG client partner at Facebook. Leslie has extensive experience within the food and beverage category, and today she's going to address best practices for growing awareness and revenue, new tools that drive loyalty, and ideas for creating digital experiences that support in-store buying. Please submit questions as we go in the panel. We'll get as many as we can, but also feel free to reach out to me anytime offline. Right now, let's get started. Welcome, Leslie.
Thank you, Marjorie. Thanks for having me. Hope everyone's doing well on this Friday. Have a lot of content here. I'm going to go through it as quickly as possible. Rest assured, you will have this information available to you with the Stella Rising team. So if it feels like I'm going really fast, you'll be able to reference it later after this presentation. So want to go through some of this interesting material, a lot around how consumer behavior has evolved and what you can do as a CPG brand to really talk to your consumers in this new normal. Of course, there we go. All right, we're going to talk about the current landscape. A lot of this stuff is things you're hearing already. You know this, so we'll breeze through that. Also, just how brands are thinking about breaking through. But really, we'll spend a lot of our time talking through how we're thinking about capturing the surge in online sales, increasing that loyalty, and then some thought starters thinking about the holiday and how we can evolve our strategies in this new normal. All right, the current landscape. I find this really interesting. So new habits can form in 66 days. Like if you think of your own habits and what you do in your day-to-day lives. And when we've been in this COVID world, like we have changed our habits, and over time, we are doing things a lot differently, and these numbers support. Obviously, we're ordering out a lot more. We're ordering more healthy foods to help boost our immune systems, and just because we have a little more time, thinking about our health a little bit more. We're donating a lot more to charity organizations, and really signing up for more subscription services. We actually have some new stats that literally just got released yesterday. I'll make sure you guys have that as well. And the subscription services continue, these numbers continue to rise into like current day. Some of these stats are a few months old. I will say I've been very proud. I've been at Facebook for 8 years now. I've been very proud of just our marketing teams and the insights that we've been able to pull during these COVID times for our partners. So really lean on us to help support a lot of the change in your strategies for your brands. Another stat here, 39% of people surveyed in the US are purchasing online, which kind of goes without saying, and I'm sure you guys know this. But what does this mean for CPG brands is we're navigating new challenges, right? A lot of sponsorship opportunities that we had aren't happening anymore. Decline in TV viewership as well. Our communication needs have to evolve because consumers are talking to brands in a different way, whether it be through online entities or messaging. New consumer occasions and tastes. People are doing things a little bit differently, so we have to meet those needs. Obviously, the e-commerce piece, and then the inevitable supply chain curveballs. So digging through, like, what are some of those new consumer tastes and trends that we're seeing? And this is just some from some first-party Facebook data. A lot of people are, believe it or not, chatting about instant coffee. I'm drinking my, I wouldn't call it instant specifically, but a cold brew coffee because it's just a lot easier. And I'm not going and commuting into the office to go pick up my local neighborhood coffee spot. People are rediscovering soups and sauces, having easy meal fixes, a new way to care for themselves as well, doing their own hair dyes, own nails, all that sort of thing. I actually dyed, had some blue dye. It's not there anymore, but the back of my hair, so I can speak to all of these trends. And then, of course, cleaning more often. This goes without saying, and some of the new stats we had as of yesterday that hit my desk are really the notion of video and people connecting with video. Obviously, this is happening whether it be just connecting with friends and family, but also with exercise, with inspiration, how-to videos, entertainment, maybe even like house hunting, for example. So a lot of interesting ways video has become in the forefront digitally. And then, of course, consumers are thinking about when they are consuming and purchasing brands. They it is interesting how much consumers are looking at what good are brands doing, and how they're thinking and supporting people in need in this COVID, in this new time of ours. All right, so let's get to the meat of this. Great, Leslie. We get the consumer insights. Let's move on. How do I make it make sense for my business, and what can I do to better show up in this new normal? All right, so a couple more insights. I mean, we love our insights, but thinking about just grocery shopping in general and how that's evolved for consumers. This contactless conversation is on the rise, as you know, in the US, up 10%. We're practicing safer shopping, goes without saying. I feel like even in early days COVID, I was still kind of doing the curbside thing, maybe a little at home, and now it's like I don't even like talk to the person that drops off my groceries. It's contactless. So it's very interesting how it's gotten more and more sophisticated just over the course of 6 months. These numbers you should be seeing, you should feel it in your own businesses, but of course, we're expected a 41% growth in online sales this year. And then across industries, those online purchases are happening on mobile. I think this piece, it's so simple, but yet, and when we kind of go into recommendations of what we're telling our CPG clients is we need to think about that element of mobile, because when we're driving consumers to different entities to be able to buy online, we need to make sure we're thinking about mobile and communicating so that it's mobile friendly and as frictionless as possible. And then, I mean, this goes without saying, obviously, like when using Facebook, it is helping influence e-com behavior with our brands, Facebook and Instagram. So here's a couple nuggets. I already alluded to the first one, but how do I do this? What are some easy, simple ways that I can adjust my strategies to make sure that I'm delivering against this e-com mobile experience? Number one, again, focus on your mobile and actually go through how many steps does it take your consumer to get to a place to buy on their mobile device. Is like the shop now button like cut off on your mobile screen? You got to really do the dirty work and roll up your sleeves, because a lot of those moments create friction and create more time and drop off for your consumers. Number two is adjust your messaging to address what people care about. Like obviously consumers are really thinking about like what brands are speaking up for and standing up for. So make sure that you're including that in your messaging, because it does make an impact. And number three is a lot of CPG, and I talk to the partners that I work with too, are like, we gotta solve for e-com, but we don't like actually fulfill directly. How do I do that? And there's so many things you can do. You can simply drive to a retail partner that you have distribution at, and there is actually availability there. You can just drive to their online site, as simple as that. You can also drive to their curbside pickup. And you can also do, we have a solution called collaborative ads, and I'll show some examples of that in the next few slides. So at Facebook, there's a product, it's called collaborative ads. It's a like for lack of a better term, a collaborative way to work with retailers, whether it be online or in store, using their data to show intent to actually help run your advertising. So this is an example of an online entity. Maybelline, Lazada is a online retailer in the Philippines, and it's an ad delivered to people likely to go to the Lazada page, and then it drives them directly. So a consumer, Maybelline actually delivers this ad, and then the consumer drives to the Lazada page, and then you're able to see the return on ad spend right then within your ads. So it's the best thing when you don't actually fulfill directly. It's the best thing that you can do to really get those intent signals and those real-time sales metrics. The collaborative ads also has a solution around store visits. So this is really cool, but using store visit data from your brick and mortar retailers. So this is good once now that consumers are able to go back into stores. So it's this is an example from Clinique, and there's a retail brick and mortar or department store in Thailand that they were able to run ads and get that intent signal of people likely to go into those stores, and then drive that ad actually driving the consumers to people within that target audience, and then ultimately seeing if they went into the stores after receiving that ad. So some really cool stuff there. All right, next section. How do we increase loyalty? Oh, we're doing good on time. Okay, great. Obviously, what's been really interesting, and I'm sure you feel this way in your own consumer behavior, but there's been a lot of, within this COVID time, switching brands to really what's the most affordable, what's available, and still what's high quality. And so you see it not only in the US, but across the globe. And I think, you know, we always like as consumers want high quality brands, but like the availability piece is a real element that has created consumers need. And even now, I still experience it where, you know, the grocery stores are still not fully stocked. And so I'm like, I don't know, I just need some bread. It doesn't really matter what bread. I'm just going to grab whatever like wheat bread I can get. So it is a place where you have to think about, and you have to make sure that you're able to show your value and quality and continue to make sure consumers are thinking about your brands when you do have availability. Oh, and here's the numbers behind some of the flipping of the brands and switching those brands. 46% of people in the US purchased food in the prior week were frustrated by missing out of stock items. All right. And then shoppers are switching to save. Here's some more stats that are US stats. Of course, everyone's being a little bit more mindful. Money, 40%. 31% says they're changing to less expensive products to save money, and 21% are researching brands and product choices before buying, because we have a little more time on our hand. Another thing I think is really interesting, I before Facebook, I was at News America Marketing, obviously working in the couponing business, if you're familiar with that company. And what's really interesting, I was there during the recession between 2007 and 2009, but the emphasis on, during, you know, troubling times, the emphasis on value and actually making sure that you are being cost effective. I mean, couponing was really high, way up during that period of time. And obviously, and also just CPG categories were up too, because a lot of people were trying to like save money and not dine out. And so we're seeing there's some similar number, or here are the numbers actually that back that up. But I would lean on the recession of this time period to kind of, and some of the strategies that you used then to maybe continue to use during this time, because consumers are buying more but not necessarily trading up. They are trading down and trying to get a little more value out of their dollars. And then shoppers want a seamlessly way to stay in touch. I mean, there is a lot more communicating directly with messaging that's happening with businesses, which I find very, very interesting. And 38% have never done this before. And in the stats that I got just yesterday, these numbers are even up even now than it was just a couple months ago. And then, yeah, and shoppers are switching to preserve integrity. So 47% of internet users surveyed across the globe said they have switched to a different product because they violated their personal values. So really important to, you know, and I think we all know this in our gut, but just having the stats to kind of support those decisions, you know, make sure you are, you know, vocalizing and saying the right things, because consumers are paying attention to that. Okay, so what can I do on Facebook? Great, Leslie, like this is all awesome. Insights make sense. How do we actually apply this for our brands? Number one, and I've said this a couple times, really promote that product availability, because that has been a pain point for a lot of consumers. So make sure they know you're at Kroger, you know, this month, like for example. I think addressing that and having messaging to support that is very important. Number two, really consider exploring the messaging piece. That is obviously a way people are consuming. I don't think it's your number one strategy, but there is abilities of Facebook messaging and things of that nature to kind of tap into that and maybe create a presence. And then, you know, stay top of mind with your shopper marketing tactics, and really dial that in, and making sure some of the messaging and communicating those products of like where you're supporting those retailers actually have your product, and making sure you're telling your story of like what your brand means and the value of your brand. All right, here's a couple examples that show some value, especially when I was alluding to the couponing element. Of course, like doing discounts, free shipping, that sort of thing is valuable. This is a public example from a brand in the Philippines. This is, if we were to do this in the US, we would want to have a secure online coupon that we would just be driving to, whether it be coupons.com or smartsource.com, to be able to print those out at home. Other ways to do this, it's just making like a beautiful eye-catching offer that has, some elements of movement, or just your product that show kind of an online offer. And this would be less for CPG, but just an example of an offer during this period of time. And then here's some examples of, how brands have shown up with messaging and being able to take an ad and go straight to Messenger and have a communication with your consumers. All right. We're tracking all right. So the next 5 minutes, we'll kind of go through this and how thinking about the holidays and how do we win there. It's interesting. CPGs, obviously, I've been in the industry for a while now, and we always plan, a year in advance, and we always are thinking about the next year. But I think this year really surprised us. If we were sitting here, thinking about 2020 this time last year, like, we did not know this was going to come. And I think what it's shown a lot of the partners I work with is like, really, how do you be, I think we all try to be agile, but like, how do you really be agile, right? Because we have to be, because consumer behaviors changed, and just the whole scope of our world has changed, right? So with that, here we are, like, having experienced that over the last 6 months. Well, we do have, a part of 2020 that we might have had, like, you plan very differently than what expected. Can we adjust and shift some of our strategies and kind of be that agile brand that we want to be, and think about like this holiday season a little bit differently? And what are some just minor tweaks, even though if we had been planning for something very, very different, what are some things that we can do to make this holiday season be a little bit lighter and brighter for our consumers? It's always, a fun time to play, but at the same time, like, I think consumers, and I'm just like speaking for myself, like, we need this, right? It's been a tough year. So how does your brand show up, and think about that, and adjust some strategies to that if you can. And these are just a few stats around holidays in general. People seek new products during this time anyway, so it's a great time to show up. We all know this in the CPG space, obviously from a seasonality perspective. And then during difficult times, people find new and simple ways to reward themselves. And I feel that, again, like, I feel like all these stats, I'm like, totally me. But just, getting just little things like a Vitamix, for example. I would have never gotten one, but we just got one this week because, we're just at home and might as well have, like, some smoothies, for examples. But these are luxuries, right? So how do you, like, in these moments and these times, know that consumers are, like, treating themselves, and they probably will be into the holidays. And then same with a self gift, right? Thinking about that, where, adults do that. It is a behavior, and I think this will only be more this year. So 59% of adults surveyed give themselves gifts across the holiday period. And then shoppers, obviously, like, they expect kind of mega sales as well around all the different industries as well. So I think thinking about it from, like, even like more CPG space and more on the health and beauty side, and how do you show up there? So how can I win? I already alluded to this a little bit before, but, obviously thinking about, like, big sales moments. Maybe it's, holiday, rethinking holiday gatherings, have some fun. There's, like, a lot of Facebook products, and I'll show you some examples where you can, like, interact and engage, or, like, do AR filters to provide a little bit of holiday cheer. So think about that, right? And then, try, the second thing is really, like, try new things that are outside of your current, your existing toolkit, whether it's creator partnerships or branded content and an AR, like I mentioned before, just to help drive discovery and just do some things a little bit differently. Here are a few examples of putting that pen to paper. For example, there's a product that we have called InStream, which is up to 15 force view video that can show up in publisher content, whether it live in Facebook feed or in watch. This is a Pepsi example in Vietnam, and that's a great way to show up with some storytelling, maybe some delightful messaging from your brands. This is an example from Coke in Argentina that had some fun videos, some short form videos, but also did an AR filter there. And then here's an example from Josh Schellers, which is just right up the road from where I live here in California. They did a last holiday, I believe it was last holiday season. They used polling within both Facebook and Instagram to have a little fun with consumers. If you can see right here, what's your favorite wine for your gift exchange? And really getting consumers to interact, which creates that long-term loyalty for your brand. And then here's an example of doing a mega sale. Making sure that you tease up the sale of when it's going to happen, whether it be a course of a few days or 24 hours or a week, whatever that looks like. And then making sure that's being communicated, building up, and then you're communicating the right thing, like on the actual day of the sale. All right, so to recap, 4 fresh takes on CPG to win in the second half of this year. So really thinking about the new habits that people are doing, really around consumer behavior and how consumers are showing up, making sure you're recontextualizing your products and your brands for these moments. Also, you got to think about the online sales, think about the mobile experience. This is only going to continue to grow in the course of not just the back half of the year, but into next year. Make sure you're thinking about the loyalty element and know that people are switching, and the more you can vocalize your value and what you guys stand for, the better. And then let's think about how do you delight your consumers during the holidays, and knowing that they are wanting to treat themselves, luxuries, maybe they just need a little bit of holiday cheer. So to that, I will close. I think this is the question section.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Leslie.
I didn't think I was going to get through all those slides in the time. And I'm like, boom.
Thank you. That was a lot to cover in 25 minutes. And so great to hear those insights from your perspective and tie them to relevant tactics within the platforms. One quick question before we go, because you did such a great job talking about so many tactics, and especially as we think about fourth quarter and what that's going to mean in today's COVID-related culture. We are seeing brands using Instagram Live, and wondering if you could speak a little bit about ideal ways for CPG brands to employ Instagram Live, and maybe even for a fourth quarter too.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's been a big adjustment. I think when Live came out like a few years back, brands got really excited about it, but then they're like, wow, it's very hard to actually produce. And then COVID happened, and everyone's like, we're back on the live game, so let's do it. So we had to, like, early days, and you're talking like March, April, really like dial in even just like our best practices, because I think we had it all there, but like it's a lot of work, and making sure brands, you want to do live, but like you need to make sure you're putting the proper prep in order to do it, because you have to make sure you're mapping out, even though it is like in theory an easy way to like connect with your consumers, but you want to make sure you put in the time ahead of schedule to really script out what's going to happen within your live content, and making sure that your brand's showing up right out of the gate, because a lot of time you can't just have someone like go live and you're like, oh yeah, what about the brand? Because you only have a few seconds to get someone's attention. So making sure you're thinking about that. Also making sure that you're, it's like almost like having your, kind of like production of what it's gonna look like. And then making sure that you're communicating before you actually go live, what you're doing, like create awareness of what's gonna happen during that event. That's hugely important. And that's where you wanna spend probably most of your media and ad dollars right then, because then you can really get consumers to like focus on that particular time when you go live. And then after you go live, make sure that you're able to cut content from that live event and use it for other advertising later. Like, I think that often gets missed too, where it's like, well, you work so hard to create this event, maybe, and you're not going to get a lot of eyeballs in that one event. Like, that's really hard to do because it's a moment in time. But how can you create moments and cut some of those, like down some of the video of that live moment and be able to reuse it down the road?
I love that. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much.
So it's 11:30. Thank you everyone for joining us. Please feel free to reach out to me anytime with follow-up questions that you might have. We have a great couple weeks coming up on Stellavision. Next week, I'll actually be talking about our new extensive research study on the food and beverage consumer in the age of Corona. A bit of a deeper look into some of these insights that we were actually been talking about today. Have a great weekend, everyone, and happy Friday.
Thanks for having me. Bye, guys.
Thank you, Leslie.